This is going to be a lecture series on Sankya Darshanam. Let me just explain what darshanas themselves mean. So, in Hindu philosophy, though Vedas are a really huge part of their culture, darshanas have become a sort of a methodology to understand the way of thinking. For example, if you have something as a law structure that creates a society, you have something also based on a philosophical structure for emotions, which based on whom families run. So you also have societal structures where you learn how to go and talk to people. So the Hindu human behavior, when noted down into multiple points, is known as a darshanam. Though I know the Sanskrit word darshanam also means to see, these books, which are of 6 kinds, are basically what you end up viewing and seeing on the Hindu philosophy. If you are to see a Hindu, if you are to see a Hindu behavior, whatever you see of Hindus are basically written down in these 6 books, hence called darshans. To darshan the Hindu behavior. Now, sankya is basically of numbers. Basically, sankya is a number. But the entire Sankhya Darshanam is the philosophy of pain. If you were to note down pain into multiple number of points, if you were to number down pain, saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in how many ways can a person feel pain? And what do you understand of pain? What is the Hindu thinking about pain? When jotted down into numbers, is basically Sankhya Darshanam. That is what I will be talking about. I'll tell you how the book structure basically goes on. You have a book. The book basically is of type darshan, because there are types. In Hindu books, you have Vedas, that's a type. You have Upanishads. You also have Puranas. You have Itihasas. You also have something called Brahmanam. And you have Aranyakas. And independently, in a very different parallel, you have this type darshana. So let me just explain to you a parallel maybe. If you have the Bible, that's basically the Vedas. If you want to understand the Bible but you don't want to read the entire Bible, you want the Bible, a gist of the Bible explained to you in short passages and paragraphs, that's the Upanishads. So, a couple of things about the Bible, that man and women are different, and that your husband is the brother in Christ and your wife is sister in Christ, and basically the concept of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and that God is the Father. Now, they're very crucial concepts of Christianity, and the entire Bible sort of runs around those core concepts. Also, the modesty and dignity of women, how a man must take care of his wife, the love given to a human from God, and that which man spreads to others thanks to the Lord. Now, all of that, these are basically core concepts of Christianity. Now, for that, on which the entire Bible runs. But if you are to read the Bible, you'll also have a lot of other stories, you'll have a little bit of history here and there. But the Upanishads are basically core key concepts from the Vedas. Now, the core concepts because of which the Vedas work, if you take them down and write 4 or 5 passages on top of them, you get Upanishads. You have 108 such Upanishads, by the way, each of which is more like 4 or 5 pages long. So you have 108 Upanishads, each Upanishad being 4 to 5 pages long. That's it. Some Upanishads are just 7 sentences. Some Upanishads are 30 sentences. If you have a paragraph for each sentence, each Upanishad becomes a 15-page book. That's it. The Puranas are basically stories. So how did Jesus come on the cross? You'll have a story. You'll have a story about Moses. You have a lot of stories about Ibrahim. You have stories about Mary. Now, all these things which are actually in the Bible written down as the part of the entire book If were not to be the case, if you wanted just the stories kept apart, then those become the Puranas. Itihasas are basically Christian history, which is fundamentally different from Jesus. It's different from how Jesus was born and what he did. That's different. That's the Purana. But independently, how did the people of Christianity react to God? Now, there is something called history of God that's in the Puranas. This is the history of God. That's different. The Itihasas are different. Itihasa is how the people reacted to God. Oh, sorry. This is how people reacted to God. Now, if you have religious practices, now let us say that you want to make a religious practice. That is basically where the Brahmanam comes about. Now, the Vedas come in 4 books. The Yajurveda, alright, the Atharva Veda, and Sama Veda, and Rig Veda. These are just 4 categories of the Veda. Basically, you can think of them as 4 fundamental chapters of the Veda. Though each chapter becomes a book in itself, you can actually you can consider them to be 4 different sections of the Veda. All of them fundamentally talk about the same point, the same principle though. So now, if you want to create religious practices from the Vedas, the procedure on creating religious practices are in the book called Brahmanam. So if you want to use Yajurveda and create a religious practice, you will open a Yajurveda Brahmanam and read the procedure lines written down, and you'll create a religious practice. It is very clearly written in the Brahmanam how to create a ritual. So rituals are not fixed, rituals are created in Hinduism. Rituals are created. That's how Hinduism works. The Brahmanam is basically a book which has a bunch of rules according to which you can create a ritual. Now, the Aranyakas are basically a philosophical debate. Philosophical debate over the Upanishads. Now, you might be wondering why you need to have a philosophical debate, because debates in Hinduism is how the culture is progressed. Somebody says yay, somebody says nay. And every single concept, there are people who agree to the concept, and then there are people who say, why must this be true? Now, this entire questioning, why must this be true? That is the core of Hinduism, actually, because they have questions like, what is I? Is it my eyes? Is it my skin? Is it my personality? What is my identity? Is it my bone? Is it my flesh? And then again, if you remove all these things, do you have something left of you in you that is still something that you call I? And they call that the soul. So there's always this fundamental question that runs, that what is this, what is that, what is this ultimate truth? And in that process of trying to find the ultimate truth, usually it's very materialistic in Hinduism, that they keep peeling off layers after layers after layers. They say that I am from a country, then I am from a state. They peel off the layer of being from a country, then the state, then the city, then they say that maybe am I by my religion, and then they say am I by my skin. A very interesting question they ask, if I peel off my skin, am I still the same person? Then they peel off the muscles, the bone, everything. No, this is a part of an Upanishad, by the way. They say I'll peel off every single layer of my skin, my bone, my flesh, am I still there? If nothing of my physical structure exists, then what am I? And then they go to the brain. Am I my dreams? Am I not my dreams? Because in my dreams I do many weird and crazy things. Are my dreams even real? Am I alive when I am sleeping? Am I not alive when I am sleeping? This why must this be true? Now, some man comes and tells you that the sun gives you light, and light is important for life. And one man will come and ask, why must this be true? Why can you not lie to me? So that man will actually have a yellow color bulb in front of him, the sun, I call, which from whom he would be feeling heat. But he will still question his entire reality. He'll still ask if this is true. Basically, the concept of Hinduism comes from the uprising fact that any person can exist in a state of Maya. And that is very much related to this one question, why must this be true? So let me explain that to you. Maya, this fundamental core belief that whatever you see is not true. So there is this actually certain set of belief in Hinduism that you can be in a room and the room is not real. There is the situation, you need to understand, it's very different from Christianity. It's very different from how the West works. If you're sitting on a chair, you don't go say the chair is not there. But Hindus come from a place where they actually sit on a chair and they think the chair is not there. Now, is it a situation of self-hypnosis? Is it a situation of actually sitting on a chair and having been told the chair is not there for millions of years? No one knows. But they do believe, they do live in a world where they have a mind, mindful enough to question, is it all real? So then they ask for truth. What is this chair? Fundamentally, it also scientifically goes to finding out what materials are made up of, but in a very philosophical sense, their mind is capable to believe nothing is there, even though they're seeing something in front of them. They're very capable of actually saying nothing is in front of me when they have a whole world in front of them. If you don't understand that core concept, you'll never understand Hinduism. They call it Maya. That no matter there's a person in front of you, they are very capable of saying this person is not that person, this person is non-existent, this person is not true, is the sentence of Hinduism. They actually can say, and all of it is based on this. So the core thinking comes from the fact that you can ask, is it true? I get you water, you'll ask, is this water? No, like, you need to understand, you would have been brought up in a society where people give you water, you drink water when you're thirsty, you give your mother a glass of water, your father comes home, he asks, and you give him a glass of water. Suddenly one day you go to a patshala, basically a school, you go to a school, and suddenly you have a class, and you give your teacher a glass of water, and he asks you, the Hindu teacher will ask you, is this water? And you need to answer this. You will now have a debate. Either you prove this is water and you need to understand what water really is, or you go to a situation where you yourself believe this is not water. Hinduism will push you until you lose your mind. That is the culture. It is the case. Either you understand the fundamental depth of the subject, whatever the object or subject might be, or you lose your mind into thinking it is an illusion, something that is not. It goes that way. Superstitions are made that way. A lot of superstitions come because people don't understand Hinduism. They say, when you're sleeping, you are not alive. When you're sleeping, you are dreaming. That dream is not real, but then it is so. So this concept of it being real, it not being real, all come into one place. But the truth is, it is all true. It is real as far as the dream is concerned, but the moment you wake up, what has been the case is no longer true. It's very simple, actually. When you're sleeping, you are in a different reality, which is not the same as when you wake up. Your consciousness, the level of your consciousness changes. You're at a different level of consciousness when you're sleeping, and you are in a different level of consciousness when you're waking up. It is like when you are also awake, you do think about things, but when you're thinking about things in the morning, you're not completely invested in them. You might be thinking about, let us say, a fairyland. There's a little kid thinking about jumping on a horse that can fly in a class. Now, they're daydreaming, they say. They have different images running in their mind. It's a matter of putting your consciousness onto the outside world and focusing your consciousness into the thoughts that are running inside your mind. Now, there are two worlds all the time. There's an outside and there's an inside. You either can have your consciousness running on the outside world, or you can have your consciousness running on the inside world, your thoughts, your dreams, emotions, actually. Now, the point is, when you're sleeping, when you say dreaming, most of your consciousness is here, And in the morning after you wake up, the so-called waking up, now it's a very big concept actually. I have woken up, people say in Hinduism. You are in the outside, and I am to sleep, they say. You go to the inside. From the outside to the inside, from the outside to the inside, from the inside to the outside. That cycle they call the cycle of life, and that again is a part of Hinduism. Now, these are what are discussed in the Upanishads extensively, 108 of them. The Itihasas are basically Ramayana and Mahabharata alone. Nothing else is a part of the Itihasa. I'll write it down. Ramayana and Mahabharata. Basically, Ramayana is how people have reacted to Rama. Mahabharata is how people have reacted to Krishna. That is it. That is all of Itihasa, chapter closed. So it's a beautiful little story. It's a very sad story as well. It's a story, but fundamentally it's a story. It's history. It's Indian actual history. It's Hindu history. Now, India is a Hindu state that needs to be understood. It has 85 to 90% of Indians, by the way. So, at this point of time, it can be called Indian history. Now, that all being said, I have come to the Aranyakas part of the deal. Aranyakas are basically philosophical debates over the Upanishads. So this debate that people will come and ask, why is this true? You tell this is water, they'll ask what is water, why do you think you are conscious enough to say that this is water? Some man comes and tells you this is a glass of water. The Hindu man will question, do you even know what you're saying? Are you true? Are you sure that you are actually uttering these words? And that is the level of questioning they have. You can call it psychosis, but no, it is not. It will become psychosis if people don't understand what they're asking. The person is trying to ask, the Hindu Brahmin will come and ask you, are you completely aware of what you're saying? Now, he will pin you down. That's the Aranyaka, that people will come, they will question, what are you exactly saying? When you say you're holding a glass of water, do you know to the complete depth of its existence what it is? Do you know what the glass is made up of? Do you know what the water is made up of? And are you yet telling me the glass is different from the water, and that you are different from the glass holding the water? You are telling me all of these differences exist, is what they will ask. And if the difference is so real, then show me to the most fundamental block of its existence that the difference is real. But that if the difference is not real, then the difference must not also exist in the fundamental blocks that create its existence and yours. And then they go have discussions about existence. That are basically, that is the philosophical debate, and those debates are conducted in books called Aranyakas. Unfortunately, these books have horrible translations, so please don't bother reading them. Don't bother reading them unless there is someone who can actually explain what the lines are. Like, they're fundamentally messed up right now. No Indian philosophical book, no Hindu book is translated properly. I'll just also say one more thing. There's something called Manusmriti, and it's a load of crap, actually. Manusmriti. I'll completely break Manusmriti down in 2 minutes. Manusmriti was a very emotional British movement to conquer India. Manusmriti was made to break down the Hindu culture, because Manusmriti has absolute crap that never aligns with the Vedas. Basically, Manusmriti has stuff like get a lady eaten by dogs if she cheats on her husband, when cheating as a concept also doesn't exist in Vedas. It fundamentally is very different. They say women are untouchable, they have a caste system. It's all very, very messed up. It was a very strategically made book to conquer the country. Cheers to the strategy, but apart from that, it's not really a part of Hindu culture. I mean, for any philosophical student who wants to take up Hinduism, it would be wrong for me to guide you in a path where I tell you that Manusmriti is a part of Hindu culture. Please, do not read Manusmriti. And if you were to read this book, because it's very famous, every local Hindu will come and say Manusmriti has this, Manusmriti has that. And that becomes a very big issue because that became some law, that was the point. It was written in Sanskrit. It became the law of the country. I mean, of course, the British Empire was ruling over the country. You can do whatever you want to do. You can write a random book in Sanskrit and rub it on their face, saying that now this is the law. Having been written in Sanskrit, a lot of people couldn't say no because fundamentally only Hindu books were in Sanskrit. It's like this: if you have a book written in Hebrew, you take it to the church and then you say, I found an old book written in Hebrew, maybe Jesus gave it. The church will question, the church will sit on it, and let us say no one knows Hebrew, then it's difficult. But then again, the church runs the country, but that is not the case in India. No temple runs the country. You have a very different government, and that government will now come and give you a Sanskrit book, quite written in Vedic Sanskrit, by the way. If you have a book written in the lines of the Bible, not the words of the Bible themselves, but that grammatical structure, it is actually very confusing to figure things out. That has been fundamentally done with the Manusmriti. It has been written in old Vedic semi-classical Sanskrit, not completely Vedic, but in the semi-classical Vedic Sanskrit of the Puranas, and that has been given to the Hindus, saying that this is one of your old books I found in the attic. The Hindus debated over it, unable to deny, unable to accept. It has become now their culture. The anti-caste discrimination has come from Manusmriti, which is a very strategic movement done by the British Empire. Apart from that, nothing else. As a philosophical student, you can take up the Manusmriti as a book of paradox, you can take it up as an investigation, you can investigate, and then hence, it's more like if you want to read Manusmriti, then you need to understand how did Manusmriti fundamentally break down Hindu culture. You need to understand. If you take a book and randomly give it to Christianity or Islam, the entire religion is not going to break down. You're not actually going to have racism, untouchability within the church or within a masjid just because a random person popped up with a book. But it happened in India. You need to understand what is the issue in Hinduism which is not part of the Vedas, which is not part of the Upanishads, which is not part of any other book till now. But then what is it? What is it about the Hindu, man and woman, that when given a book in Sanskrit, all chaos is leashed upon them? Is it the language? Do people worship the language? Do people worship the god? Do people worship the book? You need to understand. And again, that is a part of Hinduism. Now, taking up Manusmriti as a book simply would be a debate over do Hindus worship the god, the language, or the book. That would be a debate over Manusmriti, and those classes and those lectures are completely different. I will set up lectures on Manusmriti, but fundamentally only after understanding the structure of the Vedas and darshanas. To understand the Vedas, you need a bit of darshanas, and once the 6 darshanas are done, you'll have the Sahasranamas, basically 1,000 words on Vishnu. Vishnu being a concept, actually. Vishnu means to flow. 1,000 words on what it means to flow in life. Now that will be the line of these lecture series. I'm going to start with the darshanas, then I'm going to go to Sahasranamas, and then the Vedas, then the Upanishads, then the Puranas, and Aranyaka and Brahmanas. The Itihasa will mostly be a novel that I will write down, so that is different. And the Manusmriti will fundamentally be at the end of the entire lecture series after every little thing is done. Like, it's very important to understand the crux of Hinduism. It's a very beautiful religion, but then it's also important to understand, if religion is so beautiful, why did its people buy nonsense? After only reading the Vedas, you'll understand that any man who reads the Vedas will not buy the Manusmriti, will never agree to what is written in the book. But yet, it became the holy grail of Hinduism. Manusmriti has become what every 50-year-old speaks of in India. Any Hindu Sanatan man who knows a little bit of Sanatan Dharam will come and say, it is written in Manusmriti to do so and so. So why? Why is it that which is not written in the Vedas at all, which should be the Holy Grail, is no longer the case. Now, all of these things will be discussed. The first line of Sankya darshanam is this: Trivida dukkha atyanta nivritti atyanta purushartha. Written down to English would be: there are 3 types of pain whose ultimate removal leads to pure bliss. Now, that's the first line of the Sankya darshanam, which I think I'll take in the next lecture. But if the students are listening to this class, I want you guys to think. I hope you made some notes. Please do write these words down. It is important, or else I don't think it's possible for you to catch up with the other lectures. There are Upanishads, Puranas, Itihasa, Brahmanam, Aranyakas. These words are quite important. And also the names of the Vedas. Yajurveda has 2 types in it actually. One is Shukla and one is Krishna. Krishna means black, Shukla is white. Nothing very serious. The Shukla Yajurveda is basically all the text, the lines, they're called mantras, by the way. The text and lines, the verses arranged in a sequence, the Shukla Yajurveda. If you mix around the sequence and you have all the verses in an unassorted way, that's the Krishna Yajurveda. So you have Yajurveda, Atharva Veda, Samaveda, Rig Veda, and yes, why must this be true? This fundamental question. This is a fundamental question of Hinduism. Please write that down. And rituals are created. Philosophical debates over the Upanishads are the Aranyakas. Yes, so I am thinking you guys have written it down. It was a pretty slowly done lecture. Yes, this box of inside, outside, thoughts, dreams, emotions, it's very important because there are concepts, they call it nidra. It's sleep, but it's a bit more than that. So what is falling asleep is not to be in the reality you have been before. But then again, if you're conscious but don't completely realize the state from which you have come before, then are you asleep is the whole question. So it is like this. Sleeping is not just sleeping. If sleeping is to not know the reality from which you have come, and if sleeping is to enter a different reality, let us say in the daylight when completely awake, someone is talking to you and you don't understand what they're saying, you don't process that, and you go meet another man, are you sleeping is the question. For after all, you did not understand what was happening before. You don't realize what has happened to you. So without realizing whatever has happened to you, if you enter into a next state of life, a next moment of your life in time, are you in sleep is then the question. Because that is fundamentally what happens. I am awake in the day. I am realizing what is happening. When I sleep, I do not know that I have been awake. I only know that I am in my dream. Oh yes, it's a very big sentence, that I am. This is a part of Ishvara Upanishad, by the way, that I am not this or that, but I am. So I was in the morning, and then all I know is that I am again in my sleep, in this dream. I know that I am. I do not know that I was. I only know that I am. Now this particular situation where you only know that you are, but you don't know that you were, is that sleep? And if that is sleep, then every single time a person only realizes the present but not the past, are they in sleep? Then they say, my dear friend, you are in sleep, you must wake up. Jagrata is basically waking up. They say, you are in nidra, you need to wake up. Jagrata, my friend, is what they say. So this is Hinduism, again. But fundamentally, Manusmriti is basically how Hinduism lost itself, and it needs to be read upon, it needs to be understood. Why did the Hindus accept Manusmriti will become a very interesting lecture, a very interesting debate. It would have been nice if this was happening in live class in front of people, but for now this is all I can provide and this is all I have. Thank you.